time for a DoNotGod video presentation. Yeah, okay. It looks like it's recording, so get rid of that. It's probably really bad quality video because I didn't think about it, but frame rates are going to get all messed up when I try to reduce the size of this video. But anyway, doesn't, you know, who cares? Quality's smallity. Yeah, and I really don't have a subject, and that's why the fish are there, is that I have been watching them and thinking about the metaphor, the analogy of, you know, humans and fish. I mean, that's our ancestors. And just this whole mechanical aspect to existence and how it's all so redundant, you know, and it's all so, you know, just... You know, they look really like they're winning. You know, they're all pretty and clean. You know, but you know, it's just this struggle. You know, we don't see the corpses. You know, all the failures. Today's failures will be disposed of, you know, rather quickly. So, you know, we just see the little successes, and they're all striving, and some of them win and get really big, and you know, last many years doing this, you know, just swimming around saying, is there anything interesting, you know, just hungry for little pieces, little tiny pieces of gold. You know, there's little pieces of gold hidden in the world, and they're just out doing their little Easter egg hunting, you know. And this is the game you play every day over and over. And there's some mechanism, you know, built into the primitive structure that, you know, the more the environment limits you, the more it challenges you. You know, you always step up to the challenge and just say, oh, I can do it with just 1 foot. I don't need both my feet to work. I can get around. I can do it. I can fight it. And, you know, that's what they do. I saw a fish the other day had one of those stupid lamprey things stuck on his head. Just like, yeah, he's still, you know, like, I'm fighting, I'm winning. Even though I'm dragging this stupid thing along with me every day. And he just acclimates to that being the new world. That's how things are. And, yeah, it's just quite depressing, actually. But, you know, the fish never give a thought to what is really going on, right? I mean, they can't have any big ideas because they don't have enough brains for those, you know, to do that speculating and imagining. You know, could it be different? Could my life be different? Should it be different? Is there some bigger game being played? And, you know, what's going on here? You know, it's like the fish never just sit down, you know, and find a spot and just have a conversation about, wow, you know, here we are doing all this fighting with each other. You know, we're fighting over bitches and, you know, fighting over little pieces of food and territorial stuff, and, you know, and you can eat this, you can't eat that, because this is poisonous, that's not, blah, blah, blah. There's traps everywhere. You got to keep your eye open. You know, sharks are coming. Some other bullshit's going to happen. Got to be all paranoid. I mean, is this, you know, who's, you know, who organized this game? Why are we playing it? You know, and it's just such a, another example of the whole evolution thing and just how brutally stupid it is. And, you know, if I was thinking that, you know, it's, you know, people like Darwin, you know, they didn't have this advantage, you know, to be able to, you know, turn on the camera, you know, under the boat, see what was going on down there, you know, and what he would make of it if he had seen all of just how much of it there is. You know, again, it's you know, every rock is covered by some little growing thing. You know, and then there's stuff everywhere picking at it, you know. And, you know, just, yuck. You know, and what is it, you know, and then you see a fish go by and take a dump or something, you know. It's just so crudely stupid. Just all this carnage, all this crap, all this swimming. For what? You know, to accomplish what? To just keep forcing little striped fish to keep being striped fish, and little blue fish keep being blue fish, and just keep the, you know, the actors in a play that just is, you know, so redundant. Oh, pink fish flew by. Yeah, so that'll happen again tomorrow. You know, and the next day. It's just the same shit over and over and over. And the only thing, that makes it compelling is this sense of immediacy. You're in it, and you either can feel comfortable or uncomfortable. There's cold water and warm water, or there's, lots of food or no food, or, there's sharks or there's less sharks, whatever and you're just trying to find these places that are comfortable, where you can relax and say, I'm okay. But then you end up getting hungry, and then you end up getting horny, and you go, I gotta go find some bitches to chase, and, gotta go through the process. Yuck. So anyway, that's been its effect on me. Now, obviously, other people watch fish, and it's very soothing, it's very simple, and you don't have to work your brain too hard. I guess I'll reduce this and see I'll see what effect it has on the video, if any. It should have some effect, one would imagine. Now it doesn't have to keep track of all those little tiny things in the water, all the little bits of crap, the bits of, all the dead fish, and all the pollutants and garbage and, yuck. But anyway, so, so for me, it's this whole fish thing. I had fish when I was a kid. I got sort of mildly obsessed. I don't know. I had like 10 or 15 fish tanks in the basement, and and I have to say that they, it's probably had some contribution to the fact that I became kind of anti-life, just because, although the fish are interesting and soothing in some respects, the fact is it does provide this opportunity to think, and just think about the whole, the course of events, and what's going to happen. I mean, the fish is going to die. I mean, one of your favorite fish, and or something's going to eat its tail off, or there's going to be one of them's going to jump out of the tank, and, this stuff is going to happen. And, you sort of see the monotony of it all, and you see the fish just sitting there swimming with this dull look on its face. Like, what the hell is going on in their brain? So it just gets you started in this idea of, like I said, it gives you lots of room to think about the game, and think about the game you're playing, and then think about your own life. And, as a kid, I just it was hard to conjure up a whole lot of enthusiasm. There are things I enjoyed, but I know you had to pay for all of those, so you had to go to work and do this and do that, and all this structure that you had to be a slave to. And that was really, quite unappealing, as a acceptable price, for whatever. It ended up raining on a Saturday. You have your day off and it ended up raining or something, and I got one day off and it rains. That kind of crap. And then you look at your own ambitions and you're saying, well, what do I want to do with my life? And, you sort of have this ambition to be somebody, to do something well or do something meritorious. So you think of the possible meritorious things you can do, and, it's, and so they just end up being some wishful thinker, in terms of, you have all of this, 7 million other people to compete with. 7 billion. Like 7 million wouldn't be bad enough. 7 billion. 8 billion now? Whatever. Just, well. Anyway, daunting, as stated. So anyway, so this has been a little distraction for me the last couple of days, doing these, looking for live views of underwater stuff. And just again thinking about, that's where it started for us. I mean, all of our organs, all of our basic bodily functions, our hands, everything was started there. That's where we were designed. And it's just kind of funny that, we have changed a little. I mean, it's still the same idea, mouth eats stuff, breathe, do this, do that. The gills are replaced by the whole, lung and other crap. But it's a minor modification in some respects. And the only one that means anything is this big brain now, that we can do all of this much fancier communicating with each other. I mean, fish do pretty well when you think about it. You watch a tank that has more. This isn't a tank; it's a coral reef. But anyway, that has lots of fish in it, and they all navigate without banging into each other. So they have they have knowledge of the rules of interaction that are pretty good. In terms of fish brains, they do pretty good. And the fact that all these colors mean something to them, and the patterns mean something to them. Their brains are have knowledge of what this stuff means. The color thing is weird too, because these sea iguanas, they show this picture of them, with the colors often, and but that's only one tiny little group on one island, I think. On all the rest of them are all black and ugly. Yeah. So anyway, just throwing it in there. So anyway, they're just not as interesting. So they have it's even like chameleons, different. All this little stuff means something to them. A little lump on his head and his red eye and all that. It's all in their little tiny brain. This all somehow gets interpreted as meaning something to them. So they have all this built-in knowledge, in a sense, this mechanics. And doing this little tiny bit of abstraction that we're doing, the little bit of thing called language, and putting a few ideas together, takes so much more of this goo, this brain stuff, just to be able to do that little bit, And the difference is so subtle, because you can sort of understand that, well, it's not really what it's doing, because other animals have rather large brains, and they're not doing language. And so they're still living in a much simpler calculating world. They're still not doing any, multiplication. They're just doing adding kind of thing, their brain. And so there's really this whole idea that there's just something subtly tilted in the brain. It's not about how big it is. It's really just about that little triggery thing being bent just right. And then it's able to do this, it's able to increase it's in a kind of exponential way, the ability of the brain to take in all this information and process it in this language way. The language is the big difference, right? I mean, if elephants had a language, then elephants, I think, would be able to do what we're doing in some sense, in terms of exchange conceptual ideas and abstractions, and ask questions like, why are you doing that? What's your motivation? So, in our evolution, it's always this idea that somehow we grew a big brain or evolved a big brain, when all we did is have the same brain as they had. It just, language, that was it. That's the source of all the substantial differences. And somehow all that bigger brain did have some use in terms of learning and being able to adapt to changes in your environment. And but it's, when you look at the difference, you look at the difference of the complexity of, say, an ant's life with this little tiny brain, and how many rules it has to obey, versus a human, going to the grocery store. It's not a huge, it's not like we're doing something a million times more complicated in most of our existence than what the ant is doing. Obeying simple, you walk up the stairs and you can't walk off the edge of the stairs, and obeying just basic rules. And and these fish seem to be able to navigate and have rather unique habits. I mean, there's some fish, those little stripy ones. I guess they're what do you call those, bass? Maybe they're sea bass or something. Well, anyway, they go this way, instead of swimming this way, they lean up against things. It's just kind of funny. They have a little habit, it's different than the other fish habits, and of course there's some evolutionary reason why that exists, but sometimes it's hard to figure what exactly that's all about. But obviously it gives them some ancestor of theirs was benefited by having that attribute, or ones who didn't have it were harmed. But anyway, see, there's one doing it now. They just like to hang around on the edge of things. But anyway, there's probably some science to it. I just couldn't be bothered to figure out what it is. So, currently, I'm, trying to think of some way to communicate these big ideas. That is, this idea of just challenging people to really look inside of themselves and say, what is driving me, and is there anything really admirable in any of it? Is there any reasonable ambition that I have that doesn't have something to do with me, and how I benefit? Am I really invested in the existence of life on Earth, or am I really just invested in my existence on Earth? And you start honestly answering those questions, I think people will realize that, okay, it is just about me, and I really don't care that much about the rest of the world. I mean, if there was this, if the bargain was, you have to blow up the future, the future can't exist, and you get to be a millionaire, how many people, would honestly say, oh yeah, I'll take being a millionaire, and screw the future. I don't need the future. The future, I can't eat it, I can't have sex with it, I can't do anything. So yeah, you're going to blow up the earth in 100 years, and but you give me $1 million now? I just wonder how many people, if that real bargain, I just sat there on the street and said, here's $1 million cash, okay, I'm going to blow up the world in 100 years. And maybe they could make it 200, just so the people that have kids, wouldn't have this apprehension, about selling their kids short, or something like that. As long as they don't have grandkids, right? So, I just wonder how many people would take the bargain, and how high I would have to go. Would I have to go $1 billion for some people? But I mean, just say, if we could really do these, if we could really out humans, in terms of really do these experiments, realistically, these, offer them $1 million and see how much, who they'll sell out for $1 million. I think the human race would be kind of humiliated, and realize that, okay, we do a lot of talking about our investment in this stuff, but it doesn't go very deep. Just like, I wonder how much it would take to bribe the average religious kook out of their religious kookery. How many dollars do I have to offer them, for them to say, okay, yeah, fuck it, I don't believe in God. So, just arguing that the real story is just getting to the fakery of everything, how the whole thing, the whole life we live is such a fraud. I mean, people are living all kinds of secret lives, doing all kinds of perverty, weird little stuff, and blah, 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 blah. And, and some of that has been outed by the internet, but, it's they all, you always find it's like you can't really be a public figure anymore, because your life is going to be analyzed, and there's going to be all this scrutiny, and it's just going to come up looking, but the funny thing is, it really doesn't matter to people, which is the other funny part. Just because Trump was, pretty thoroughly outed. I mean, everybody should have known he's just a selfish crook. I mean, his whole life has just been propaganda and bullshit, pro-Trumpian nonsense. He's just been a faker saying, I won the gold medal, and he made the medals out of him, those fake pieces of chocolate or something. Pitiful. And people idolized him. I mean, they really, it's just, wow, what an admirable man. And they would actually wear his name on their own body, and on a hat. Just so pitiful. I wonder how much these people how much you have to pay them to sell out Trump. But anyway, I mean, maybe it'd be more just because they are really lunatics. I mean, they are the fanatics, and their fanaticism is caught up in such a silly, stupid fable. I mean, just such a dumb story of reality. You're just like, wow. I'm just like that. I'm saying all this big brain isn't going anywhere. So, the idiocracy, what is it made out of? Is it made out of the structure of human beings? Are we always going to revert to just being stupid, gullible fish that'll fall for anything? Or is there some hope that memes and ideas and concepts can resurrect us, that can inspire us enough to say, well, let's talk the truth instead of bullshit. Is that possible? So, unfortunately, it just happened to be a boring period, frankly. Later in the day, there'll be more going on, I guess. I don't know, fish wake up slow or something, I don't know. Anyway, so let's see, is there anything else? So, I'm working on figuring out how to, it's not that you want to trigger people, but to get to some, piece of them, something inside of them that they can recognize that, I see how I'm being manipulated, by a bunch of sensations, by chemistry, my glands squirt some crap, and I'm distracted and turned into something, and become obsessed with something, and think it's going to be an answer to a problem when it's not an answer. All that kind of stuff, and just get people to do this introspection thing and just recognize how much of an animal they are, and what tiny bullshit they're living for. And that they're all striving, in a sense, for something they're not going to achieve, which is this comfort, where you go out and you have the perfect cup of tea, and then you have, the perfect environment, and you're sitting with the birds tweeting in this perfect environment with perfect company, having this perfect moment, and then you realize you have to go to the bathroom or something. I mean, the reality is that you're just not going to be able to stay there. Reality is going to get in your way. It's going to get in the way of your perfect comfort, and you really can't construct it. I mean, you can put the chairs out, you can put the umbrella up, you can cut the grass, you can do all this crap, but you really can't have what you're hoping for, which is some immunity, from the grind and, the game. It's going to come and get you. I mean, obviously, you can have a hard life or an easier life. So, I mean, it's relative. So I'm not saying there's nothing to hope for, but I mean, that's all you're really hoping for. Is digging yourself out of a mess, not really getting somewhere. You're just trying to. You're in the quicksand, and you're going to fight for your breath because it's uncomfortable not to have it. And so you're going to fight that discomfort, and that's rational on a immediate scale. But it's not really rational when you're sitting here contemplating existence and what the truth of it is. There's no immediacy. You're not going to drown in that fish tank. You're not going to drown in the monotony of their lives. You're not in any way glued to any fate here in just being honest about what the hell's going on here, and that all we're doing is playing stupid human fish games, stupid fish games, because we really haven't taken this big brain and used it to understand reality, and instead people are just, trying to navigate their coral, try to navigate the little fake world they've created, and they're just attempting to navigate it more successfully, and all of that bigger context of what's beyond the boulders has lost on them, because they've misdescribed it as some, sensible, purposed machine, and it doesn't have one of those. It's just a bunch of what could happen happened. Chemistry got complicated, and it's doing little antics, but that's all it is, and it doesn't add up to anything but a bunch of pointless death, pointless struggle, pointless harassment. Just a bunch of negative to stop a negative system. You're fighting the negative system by just piling on more quicksand, in a sense. You're fighting quicksand with quicksand. You're just perpetuating a crime to somehow compensate for the crime of your dissatisfaction. I need to believe. Well, there's no. I could get into the whole subject of why people have kids, and how there's nothing honest in any of that nonsense. There's no honest appreciation for the risk, no honest appreciation for the absolute fact that you're basically going to sentence something to have to live a hard life. Usually there's no free lunches here unless you're a billionaire, the son of a billionaire, and then you have all kinds of psychological issues. And you're going to struggle for your meaning. And are you going to do the world any good in trying to try to have them eke their piece out of it? Do the millionaires and billionaires make the world a better place? They don't seem to finance anything that's of any value, just rackets and gimmicks. Pitiful, really. That they have no imagination, no capacity to do anything good. The only time they ever did anything good is when they got a tax break for it. When they could defer the government taking the money, and so they could invent Carnegie Hall or have something permanent with their name on it that they could feel good about. But they had to be extorted into doing those good deeds. None of them ever did it out of the goodness of their hearts. They never did it without being incentivized to do it. And that's a pretty sad commentary also. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. And I do hope to be more, focused on individual subjects and in a more ordered way of presenting the argument than this whatever off the top of my head kind of mush. But we'll see. See what I can get to. Working on lots of things, and so it's hard to devote the amount of time I need to devote to things and the amount of concentration, because I have all these other thoughts that run through my head, and I have these other projects, so I do have to try to be more disciplined in how I apply my conscious energy, blah blah blah. Alright, so that's enough for now. So till the next time, and such and so forth and whatnot. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's enough.